I decided on a course correction here for a couple different reasons. One is I had tested and experimented with a folded collar, and I found that it's a bit tricky and problematic to do with this cloth tool because you've got two very thin parts of geometry butting up against each other. And also, garment makers use measures to make this part of the garment much thicker. For example, they may use double-sided cloth or place material inside the folded collar to give it that extra degree of stiffness. So basically it remains static where the rest of the garment is soft and pliable. So really what we can do if we wanted to continue going in this direction is just separate that itself and then go ahead and run the simulation on the rest of it. So I'm going to do something similar with a raised collar because in the movie The Hobbit, that's pretty much all he had. No folding collars. So that's the direction I'll go with this. I'll also extend the sleeve and create a folded cuff. What I'm going to try to do from here is much of this shirt I'm going to extrude outward and away from the skin. Without further ado, I'm going to speed up the playback while I continue here. Hit the S key to turn symmetry off. And with a freeform lasso, just make a selection of all the faces here. I'll choose the Extrude Faces tool rather than just scaling. That way each face is being extruded along the local normal. Turn Auto Snap off while I tweak the mesh here. Select the bottom row of vertices. Then I'll click Expand several times and then Relax several times. Deselect a few verts. Again, just continue relaxing. Go ahead and scale them out uniformly. With the brush tool, again, just tweak or hold down the shift key in order to relax under your brush. Select the bottom row of edges to scale that out. Again, just selecting all of these and continue to relax them. So I'm selecting this row of edges and I'm going to straighten them out with the transform tool. Just scale out along the local axis. The brush tool, again, just tweaking it a little bit more. Select those row of edges and pull them out. You can scale. Just relax them a little bit and go ahead and extrude that out. And each time I extrude, I have to hit the Enter key, remember. So I'm going to create a cuff here at the end. Extrude faces once more. Use the split rings tool to add a little bit more supporting geometry, especially on the edges. I'll select the edge loop on each end, hold the shift key to reorient my gizmo, and then just kind of scale them along that single axis. And go back to the brush tool. I'm going to skip forward a few minutes while I continue tweaking. So the next thing I want to do is create a clone of the faces right here at the base of the collar, because I want the rest of the garment to be pinned by this object, and you'll see what I'm talking about when we get to that point. And I want to do the same thing for the cuff, because it also is going to be relatively stationary. So let's go ahead and do that now. The first thing I need to do is separate this collar mesh. And with the select tool chosen, I'll go to edges, select that, reduce my brush size. Let's go edge ring, faces, and rather than cloning, I'm going to separate. Let's go ahead and rename our newly created layer. You can see that it's now separated. I'll drag and drop that into the Retopo Models palette. I can hide that now. I'll go back to edges, drop that tool, that gizmo, and edge ring, faces, clone, enter, no. But if I hide the shirt, you can see it created that clone separately. Let me select the faces. Let's turn symmetry off. Subdivide. Alright. Let's go into the sculpt room. I'll choose geometry, Retopo mesh to sculpt mesh. So I can see this pinning object. It's a surface mode object and it's single-sided. Turn my wireframe on, subdivide. I'm going to go ahead and subdivide it while it's here. That should be enough. And I'm going to right click and we'll thicken. Hit OK. Alright. And let's go ahead and convert this to voxels. Let's make it 100K. Turn wireframe off. Now let me go ahead and extrude. May want to build up the area right here where it's not yet sticking through. Let's smooth all and turn symmetry on. Could use the move tool if I want to just kind of pull it out along the normals. That's another technique, but I think this will be fine. Just want it to stick above the skin just a little bit. Okay, and hide the body. I'm going to kind of grow it from beneath right here in the very front as well. So let's go back to the Retopo room. I can hide that. Go back to our sleeve. We're going to do the same thing for the cuff. Go to edges mode. Reduce my brush size. Hold down the shift key. Select. And continue holding the shift key. Just drag select. Okay. Faces. Clone. I'll go ahead and hide the body. And the pants. Escape. What I want to do is go back to edges mode. I'm going to close the ends on this object. Go. Transform, Hit the enter key so I can extrude these faces. Extrude one more time. Hit escape. I could cap, but when it's out in an open space like this and it doesn't have voxel object underneath it, it doesn't know what to do because it's used to snapping to an object, and so cap doesn't really help when you're just freeform modeling like this. So what I'm going to do is just switch to something like the quads tool, and we'll just do direct, and again split. Same thing on the bottom. Edges mode. Transform tool. Enter. Enter again. This time, hit escape. We'll try another trick for just welding all these vertices together. Go to vertices mode. Drag that one over the top of that one. Just continue this. So now we have that. Let's go ahead, select all faces, and subdivide. Turn symmetry back on. Check invert mirror. Copy it to the other side. Let's go to sculpt room. Retopo mesh to sculpt mesh. Whatever layer I have selected, it's going to create a child layer if it's not already blank. Let's name this collision. Okay, turn wireframe on. Subdivide. Do that a few times. Voxel mode. Smooth all. Turn wireframe off. Now, just to make sure that this intersects with the cloth and doesn't just sit beneath it, I'm going to extrude just a little bit. 0.02. Let me do that one more time. Okay. So now that we have our pinning object that's going to hold the cloth in place, we can go back to the retopo room, hide that cuff. If I want, again, I can just drag and drop that right into the models palette. Go back to our long sleeve shirt and drag that in as well. Now, select all faces and subdivide. Go to sculpt room, select the collision object, which is the body here, and all these child layers, and 3D Coat should recognize them when using the cloth tool. Pick from retopo. I'm going to go ahead and scale my brush up so I can immediately start using it to tweak the cloth